What's up, everybody? I'm Justin Young, and that man right there is none other than Griffin Greenberg, and this is the Fast Break right here on hoopscene.com and Hoopscene TV. We appreciate you tuning in. Griffin, we got a lot to talk about in the great state of California, man. I feel like your ears are probably still ringing from the weekend. Is that a fair assessment?
That's very fair to say, considering the game I was at and the stakes involved.
I love it. I love it. I love it. We're going to talk about where you were at. We're going to talk about what's going on in the Open Division in California. We've got a game of note as well, the Division I division of what's going on in the CIF. And really, we talked about last show. We've talked about another podcast. Like California right now, like the best of the best are still going head to head. And we're seeing some tremendous matchups and some tremendous games and showings from some of the very best players in the country. We're going to break down what we saw of 4 games as we get into the final 4 of the Open Division here in California. We're going to break it down right here on the Fast Break. And so, Griff, let's get into it. Let's go up to NorCal for a second, okay? We've got De La Salle playing Modesto Christian, and really, I mean, powerhouse against powerhouse. And it felt like that was kind of the theme of what this whole past weekend was. Give me some breakdown from that game up there in Northern California.
Yeah, I mean, this is the 5v. I believe it was the 5 versus the 1 seed, and I mean, just looking at that, many people probably didn't think it'd be as close of a game. It was a 1-point game in the end. Modesto walked away with the victory, but De La Salle had a chance to win the game. They got off a pretty good shot. Arshawn Salke, I believe it was, missed a shot at the left elbow to win it. He was actually, Justin, we didn't really touch on this much, but the round before, he hit the game winner for De La Salle against Archbishop Mitty. So, I mean, he got a good look at it at the end, and it didn't go in. Obviously, we've talked about BJ Davis before, another huge performance from him once again. And he had a couple big plays down the stretch, which pushed Modesto out and eventually got them the win.
Yeah, let's talk about DJ Davis. I know we've talked about him before. One of my favorite things as an evaluator is I always pay attention to their senior season, right? Like, it's interesting because guys are playing, some guys are playing upwards of 80 games in travel ball, like legitimately, like insane numbers. You're playing, 30 games, 25, 30 games in high school. So that's just between your travel team and your high school team. But that's not accounting for camps, and that's not accounting for pickup games. And that's not accounting for like maybe a weekend trip with another team for one event because your other team's not playing. I mean, guys are logging so many minutes where I'm always interested in seniors. Like, how hard do they go on the way out, right? Because let's be honest, some travel ball experiences is way better than the high school experience, right? And so I'm always looking at how do guys finish their high school career. And for BJ Davis, a guy that I think with anybody with a brain kind of knew at different, events, Section 7 and those types of events, you saw some big game potential from him. But, man, I feel like he's putting that resume together that you're really excited to see what he's going to look like as a freshman in college next year. And, in March, this is where really guys kind of rise up. Man, he might be that guy again next year. Do you think he has let me spin off a little bit. What kind of potential do you feel like he can bring to the table right away? Because it's so hard to be a good freshman now.
It really is. It's tough, but I think he's such a dominant guard, and he brings so much energy that he could bring value to really any team he goes to. So I think he has the potential to be very good at San Diego State. And obviously, he's still got what he hopes to be a few games left in his high school career, looking to get back to that state championship like he did last year. But he's a really legit player that we talked about it last video, Justin. Not a lot of people give him recognition for.
That's crazy to me. It's crazy. And that's why I want to bring him up again. I know it's a little like a quick right turn right out of the gate in the show, but I think, San Diego State, one of the reasons why they're so good each and every year is because I think they evaluate really, really well. And again, it's hard to be a freshman and play now, but I think they've got a really good one where he's been battle tested, and his resume says that he's going to be on the floor right away for the Aztecs right out of the gate. So we'll keep it moving to a game that we talked about a little bit last week, and that was St. Joseph's against Doherty Valley. Did this game live up to the hype?
Very exciting game out in Doherty Valley. My dad actually was at this one.
Was he?
Reporting back to me.
I love it.
He had a blast. It was St. Joseph was up by 20 in the first quarter, actually.
Wow.
And Beasley got hurt in the first. I heard it looked like he got the wind knocked out of him. Someone said he was being evaluated for a concussion. He came back at 36 points. I mean, he brought them to within a few possessions of score, like in the fourth quarter. But St. Joseph really, I don't think they gave up the lead since taking over in the first quarter. And a big reason was Julius Price, who I believe is only a freshman. I mean, 6 for 7 from three. It's just hard to stop someone when they're shooting that good. And then Tunde Yusufu did Tunde Yusufu things as always, 29 points, 15 rebounds. But it seems from what I saw and from what I was told, St. Joseph was really weathering the storm that pretty much for most of the final three quarters. I mean, when you got a guy like Beasley, you know he's going to bring everything, even if he's not at 100%. And 36 points is pretty impressive for a guy that seemingly almost got knocked out, from what I heard.
Yeah, it goes back to what we're talking about with BJ Davis, right? Like Ryan's no different, right? He's the same kind of guy, same kind of like exit on the way up. And again, I think he's a player that picked the right spot, or that's going to be at the right spot and have really good production. But you said a freshman hit 6 out of 7 threes. Tell me the name again on that. I gotta get this on the notepad real fast.
Yeah, there you go. Julius Price. So, I mean, take note, because
got it.
I'm sure it was his best game of the season. I've seen him have a few big games for St. Joseph this season, but 6 of 7 from three is just crazy.
Well,
it's a huge playoff game.
I mean, that's where stories change, right? Confidence comes in from that, like especially for a young guy hitting that kind of shots in this kind of stage. I mean, these are the moments where you can walk it back and put it on the timeline and go, that's where it all started for him. Yeah. That's like where it really became, okay, one of the guys to now the guy. And I think those are important things to really take note of for guys in their trajectory. So we've got Modesto Christian is going to be playing St. Joseph now in the Final Four.
Right. Keep in mind, too, St. Joseph drove 4 hours for this game out in Jordy Valley. I mean, St. Joseph's in Santa Maria, which is not close to really any of those teams up there. It's more closer to these Southern California teams.
Sure.
And they were in the Southern California side of the bracket last year, playing Harvard Westlake in the first round. So, I mean, they're making another 4-hour trip up there, unless they're staying throughout the week, which I'm not sure if they're doing that. But Modesto versus St. Joseph, it should be a very fun game. And these two teams actually played against each other earlier this season.
What was the outcome,
68-67 Modesto. So
okay. Close one.
I'm sure another close one, another exciting one. Tunde had 29, 7, and 7 that game. And BJ Davis had 38 points in that game.
Yeah, I mean, stars are going to star, right? Like, and that's the type of game. 68-67 Tuesday night. I think you can put that under the certified must-see TV. No doubt about that for Tuesday night here in the Final Four in the CIF. Let's keep it moving. We got St. Augustine playing at Corona Centennial. Listen, Corona Centennial nationwide, people know about these guys. They're going to be tough to beat no matter what. St. Augustine did a really good job of getting to this point. Break down this game for me.
Yeah, I mean, St. Augustine has impressed me all season. I thought their win against West Ranch was, a really great win for that program. And
yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people didn't think they win that game, despite it being a home game. But obviously, Corona Centennial, like you mentioned, is a very tough team to play. And it seemed like throughout the whole way, Centen just pretty much dominated in every aspect. I mean, Mike Price, 24 points, Jared McCain, 23. They had 3 players with over 20. Eric Freeney was the third one. And Freeney had a ton of boards as well. So it's just hard to compete with that caliber team. But St. Augustine, I mean, I think they won the fourth quarter. They still try to put up a fight throughout, but Centennial still ended up winning by 20 points.
Yeah, it's funny. We talked about Aaron McBride so much, but I think Freeney and I think I've already drawn a blank because I'm old.
Mike Price.
Yeah, Mike Price. Yeah, there we go. See, I need to take a nap. That's my time of the day to take a nap because I'm an old guy. But I think the depth of Centennial is so crucial because we know Jared McCain's going to be the guy. We know McBride's going to make a play. Maybe he's not even the kind of guy that I think is a stat sheet kind of guy anyways. I think his energy, his leadership, that kind of stuff, I think that's the stuff that shines through. But the depth of talent for Centennial is really impressive because we've seen that from them all season long, where Mike Price can be the guy. I mean, the guy can go for 30 if he wanted to, right? Like he's that type of ability. Freeney crashing the boards and being effective there. Really, really tough. How did Rudolph play for St. Aug?
Lolo, I mentioned this to you before. I did hear that he got hurt in pregame, but I mean, I was just watching his highlights. He still looked good, held his own on defense, which is a big thing I feel like we've seen for him throughout this season. We know what he can bring to the table offensively, very dominant guard and can get to the hoop, but his defense has taken a big step up.
Yeah, yeah. I think again we talked about last show. I think he's the guy this spring that's really going to level up with his recruitment moving forward. Really, in the big one, I think over the weekend where, man, if you were paying attention in California, this was the one. It was Harvard Westlake taking on St. John Bosco. This was the one you were at, right?
Yeah, yeah, this was the one I was at. It seems so it felt like Harvard Westlake was in good control the whole way through, except for that fourth quarter, and St. John Bosco kind of went on a little run, gained some momentum, and really it was what a two possession game throughout the rest of the way. Those last few minutes of the fourth quarter.
Who won?
Harvard Westlake 69-64, I believe the final score was. And I mentioned to you before, Christian Ori, I know what he can bring defensively to the table. He's a guy that, six man for Harvard Westlake. Coach Rabibo usually brings him in for to get Brady Dunlap a little bit of a rest after that first little stint. But defensively, he's been great all season. Offensively, this was the best game I've seen him play. I think he had 11 or 13 points. And I mean, that's huge in a playoff game of this caliber, especially when he's such a good defensive player already. Him just bringing that offense is such a boost for this Harvard Westlake team. And it was timely too. It's like he hit a few timely threes in the first half. Fourth quarter, he had a nice rebound put back, and very next play he took a charge. So he's just doing it all out there.
I love it. And Bosco, again, this is a team that we're going to be talking about quite a bit down the next couple of years. They're young. They've got some studs. Getting these types of matchups against these types of teams will get you ready for what's down the road. And I think we saw that. I mean, even from December to where we are now, I feel like Bosco made some significant jumps in their overall skill development, their confidence. I can't wait to see what that team looks like. I think they're a definite favorite going into next year as well, with all the guys who are going to have returning back to the team. So now this sets the table. We've got some unbelievable games coming up now. We talked about St. Joe's playing Modesto Christian. Now we've got Harvard Westlake and Centennial locking heads, which really, if you're paying attention at all, that's as bad as it gets across the country. I mean, I feel like Tuesday night, I don't know what else is going on around the nation. I haven't looked and seen which games on which days, but you're going to have a hard time telling me there's a better game in all of basketball, even with college basketball conference tournaments going on. So I'm sure there's some good NBA games. But man, that Tuesday night, that is the king of must-see TV with Harvard Westlake taking on Corona Centennial. Definitely. What are the matchups like when I think about this game? Like, what's the matchup of note for you when you look at that one that you're like, crap, that's gonna be amazing?
You mean player-to-player matchup?
Yeah.
I think I want to say I think it's interesting. I want to see what Coach Rabibo does, because I'm sure Jacob Huggins will match up with Devin Williams, which makes sense. But I'd like to see where he puts Brady Dunlap and who he matches him up against, whether it's Aaron McBride or not, because I think McBride's such an outlier on that Corona Centennial team that it's interesting who you put on him. I mean, you could put Dunlap on him. You could put Nick Hamania, I think he's been very good. He's played more of the point guard, and that's why I think that spot is interesting to me, because we've seen him play more of a guard role this season. So I'd like to see if he switches back and guards, the 4 spot. But just matchup wise, I think Trent Perry on Jared McCain is going to be a very exciting matchup.
Hard to beat that. Yeah, that's hard to beat.
You've been very high on Trent Perry as well this season.
Oh, for 2 years, really. Like, even go back, we ran our first camp in the West was in Utah during like the weird COVID time where Utah was like really the only state you could run stuff. And Trent came out as a freshman and was off the charts, and really just been fun to watch his growth and his development as he's become like a no-brainer top 100 guy. So yeah, I mean, listen, you can go through the entire starting lineup on both teams and go, oh, that matchup and that matchup and that matchup. I can't wait to see how this plays out. This is worthy of a Final Four. This is worthy of a state championship game, if I'm being quite frank, and really one of the best non-prep school type of games there is in the country all season long. I would put this up there with maybe one of the best 3 games of all in the nation this year when it comes down to matchups versus matchups. So this is as good as it gets. So now the winners of, again, Harvard Westlake and Centennial will play the winner of St. Joseph against Modesto Christian. So that'll be the championship in the open division in the state of California. So these games are happening on Tuesday night. So make sure you can watch online if you're not able to get into the game. How long do you think the line will be to get into these games, by the way? Longer than Disney?
I mean, I know there's going to be no tickets at the door. This is going to sell out right away.
Oh, fair. Yeah.
I saw some numbers, I think, on Twitter, and there was over 12,000 people at the St. John Bosco versus Corona Centennial championship game. Keep in mind, that was just the Southern section championship game. This is the, regional finals for everyone in Southern California. So it's going to be a very packed Corona Centennial
I
gym.
love it. I love it. Well, you'll be in there for sure, and getting a chance to see that for us as well. So if you're not following Griffin Greenberg already, make sure you do that on Twitter. He'll be there for that action. He's a good follow nonetheless, by the way. You gotta keep him following. Give him a good follow too. So one game of note that we've got to mention, I think, because they have moved it. They didn't move this game to a different location. They moved Notre Dame playing Sierra Canyon in the Division One grouping here in the state of California. And it's interesting, that was the game. It's going over to Calabasas, and we'll play that game there. They're moving that game over to that. So yeah, certainly interesting in that matchup as well. Anything of note of that game for you?
I will say I'm not sure yet. We haven't seen Isaiah Elohim play in a few games. I would like to see if he plays tomorrow. Obviously, Notre Dame, it seems like, has gotten the best of Sierra Canyon in the last few matchups, but he's, a game changer. So regardless, it should be a good game, but that'll be interesting to see.
I love it. Give me one player of all these games. I kind of put you on the spot a little bit that maybe has the hot hand or really is in store for like another big game. Anybody in these matchups that you're really kind of putting the telescope lens on top of?
Ooh, putting me on the spot right here. In the open finals, or
either one.
I'm gonna go with Eric Freeney.
Okay.
I think he's been playing really well. 20 points last game. He had a huge game against St. John Bosco in the championship, and he's been very consistent for them this season. So I'd say he's a player, especially with Harvard Westlake focusing on, so many great Centennial players. And it's going to be, the same thing the other way around. Some guys are going to, get freed up a little bit. And I feel like Freeney could be someone.
I'm not mad at it. I think you're right. I think he's in that place. It's the perfect time to do that, as we've got travel ball right around the corner, where I do think he's a guy that will blow up even more, be a nationally ranked guy when it's all said and done. Well, this is going to be a ton of fun, man. I cannot wait to see what happens Tuesday night. I know where I'm going to be. It's going to be looking at this screen right here, making sure I can see all the action going on in the great state of California. Griffin, you'll be there for the big game of the year so far. You got Harvard Westlake taking on Centennial. Can't wait to see what happens there. So if you're watching this, you've got this far, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel as well. We got tons of content coming up in the great state of California and in the West Coast. Griff's got you covered from top to bottom. Griff's going to be fun, man. Get those earplugs. Plug them in, man.
It's going to be a good one. I might need them for this one.
I think you might need to get those out. So until next time, we'll see you right here on Hoop Scene TV. Thanks for watching.